Hey everyone, I'm Carolyn from Tranquil Mentor, and welcome to our channel. Today in part 3 of the Spooky Town Halloween video series, we're going to be adding some items to our Dollar Tree Spooky Town. We started this haunted town last year, and this year we decided to add a cauldron over a fire pit, a haunted graveyard, and a new Welcome to Spooky Town sign. We started out with some old foam that we had laying around, and this Temu foam cutter. The little wire in here heats up, and when you get it from Temu, it's about $4 or $5. When you get it from Temu, it needs to be assembled, and then this wire heats up, and what you do is you take that red alligator clip and you clip it to the wire, and that's what starts the current, and then that wire heats up actually pretty quickly. So I cut out these shapes with the hot wire, and I shaped everything like gravestones. And I've got some toothpicks here, and what I'm going to do with the toothpicks, I'm going to take them, and this is how I'm going to attach the foam to the base. And as we put these toothpicks in, they are a little bit too long, so it came through a little bit on the front there, but it's coming through a little bit on the bottom. So just a pair of scissors and that could get cut off, and then for the next time I'll just make sure I keep them shorter. And now here is some Temu. I do know this is a Dollar Tree video, but I do get some of my supplies from Temu, some of my craft supplies. So this is the nano tape, and Temu's brand of nano tape, and I was trying not to use so much hot glue. Hot glue would be fine though. However, what I'm doing here is I'm just using some of that tape. I try to use that tape as much as I can. I don't mind the glue gun, but I just feel that the tape is more affordable and just easier to work with. I can have a little bit more time to get things in place and move them around. So ever so slightly I'm putting that underneath here. And then when I have some edges left over, I could just take my scissors and cut that off, or you could cut the tape in half. It is pretty thin, so I tend to really use it a lot though. So what I'm doing here is just kind of molding them into each other, and there you have it, our first little gravestone. And then what I'll do here is take the rest of them and put those together. And I've got these painted, and I also used some egg crates, and I cut up the egg crates and I put those on the front. I traced the front of each shape and I put the egg crate on top of that, and then I painted those just with black and white paint, mixed up some gray. And then to make the border for the cemetery, I have some popsicle sticks and I cut off the ends. I've got my Dollar Tree super glues here, and I'm just going to line these up, and there's really no rhyme or reason. I just pretty much cut off the round edges, and just I'm lining them up here just to see, and I'm doing this kind of jagged pattern, and I like the way that looks. So I'll just take my glue now and I'll start gluing together. I have a paper towel on the side here, but I usually use a piece of parchment paper or something like that, and the paper towel will work fine for now. And then I have a toothpick, which really gives me control of where I could put glue. And then I'm just going to put the glue in the corners, and little bits at a time really helps. I do like that. I like both of the glues from Dollar Tree, but that tube seems to work pretty good. It doesn't get clogged like the other ones, that larger tube there. But so far so good with this glue. It does fine. And I'm going to finish that off there and that gives me my shape, and then the gravestones will fit in there. And I'm just going to hold on to that for a little bit and I'll finish up. All right, and I do have a piece of basswood that I cut. I have a laser cutter and I cut that, but basswood could be easily cut with an X-Acto knife, and I just made the background, and there's my gravestones there, and I'm just showing that I'm going to be putting them in there. And for now I'm going to take my Dollar Tree clips here. They have the pink clips usually all the time, and I'm just going to dispersed some glue out here. And I really only need to put the glue in the corners, but I did glue a lot on one side and just realized that I didn't have to do that. So I'm just going to finish putting the glue on there and line this up, and it'll fit nicely on the basswood. And we'll get that all glued in place and get that dried up. And I'm going to take my clips here and clip everything together, and then we'll let that set. And I let it set for quite a few hours because I had some other items I was working on, but it will dry pretty quickly, and then you can start to be able to work on it. But I like to usually let it set in place for a few hours. And then I'm just showing you how I'm going to use this model magic and how the gravestones fit into place here. And that Crayola model magic is from Dollar Tree. I could typically get it all the time. If I don't find it, I can go to some of my other Dollar Trees. I have 3 in my area that are pretty close to each other. So I usually, if I can't find it at one, I'll go to another. But I use this a lot. I find it very forgiving. It does take a long time to dry, but I just really like the way that it's pliable. And right now I'm just warming it up and just getting it ready. And I had some edges here that I wanted to fill in. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this little piece and I'm rolling it up into a line. And I guess they call it a worm, I think. I'm not sure, I forget. But anyway, I just rolled that up and I'm filling in these gaps here because I did have a lot of gaps on the side, and I want to put some sand in here. So I didn't want the sand to fall out of the edges or in between those little gaps there. So I'm forming this in, and then what I did is I just take my pieces and I blend them in all along the edges. And I took little pieces too to get the edges because it seemed like they needed a little bit more reinforcement. But I've got this part pretty set here, and I just tried blending everything as much as I could, and then I'm gonna fill in along the edges here. But on the inside, those edges too still seem like they were open, so I wanted to fill those in with the air dry clay. And I'm pressing them into the corners and just making those meet up. It just feels like really a pastry or something that you're putting together. And little by little, I'll pinch these pieces together and just get that to cover up. And this goes a long way. You do have to be careful of cracking and everything, but in this situation, if it does crack a little bit, it's just going to add to the creepiness and oldness of it. So I have this little spatula type or sculptor tool, and this is from my stepmom. Had a stash of Sculpey clay stuff, and she gave these to me, so I have a bunch of Sculpey tools. And I'm just going into the edges, trying to give this a little bit of texture and blend it in and push that down to the bottom so that it looks like it's sealed. And we're all set with that. I like the way that looks and still has that bumpy texture. And this is what they'll look like inside. I keep just checking to see if they fit. And they're going to be all off kilter a little bit anyway and moved around. All right, and I laid these out here, and I'm going to take some of this paint. Now, my air dry clay has been drying for 2 days. They like it to dry for about 3 days, but that's a long time for me. So usually after about 2 days, I try to paint it, and that may be why I get some cracks in it, but I usually just fill them in. But in this situation, I'm taking that khaki and not even blending it or anything. I'm just taking that khaki color that I love so much and painting this all on. And I feel like this looks like sand, the color of sand and dirt. because I want the graveyard to be just in sand, but look like it has some kind of old border and not really too much definition to it, just old and been there a long time, and kind of the dirt's a little bit all over the place here. But I get that painted up, and I'm gonna let that dry. And I use my fan brush a lot. I really like it. And now it's dry, so I'm going to take some Mod Podge. And you can see that there are cracks in it, and that's because of probably not letting it dry and then just the way that I put everything on. This is some dirt from outside. Now, I usually have dirt from Dollar Tree, just the sand, and I just couldn't find it. So I grabbed some dirt from outside, and I take my Mod Podge and pour that on. This is the glossy Mod Podge, but you could use the Dollar Tree Mod Podge also, which is usually matte. I don't know if it's glossy, but they usually have the smaller bottle. I just happened to see this on sale, and I grabbed it from Michael's. And I've got this dirt in here. I've got some of my favorite Apple Barrel matte khaki paint that I used before. And I'm going to get some paint put in there and get some color on this sand. And we'll mix it up really good. And I think the sand from outside added more texture, and I like that a lot. And I think it came out good. I have a little bit larger pieces from my yard, so it will give, instead of just the plain sand effect, it'll give some kind of rocky effect too. And I'm scooping that up with my fan brush, and I've got a few of these. I keep them around, and if I find some, I buy more. But I just love the way they're thin and they brush everything out. And now I have all of the paint and our texture on, and I'm gonna let that dry. And then here we are, I'm showing again, and I kept measuring and looking, and I painted with white paint some different little messages on there. And one was beloved, R.I.P., one was a cross, and here lies, and then I just kind of scribbled it because I didn't want to put any creepy names in there. Bad juju. So anyway, I got my Mod Podge on there, the glossy one, and matte probably would work a lot better, but the gloss was fine. And I've got more of my dirt from the yard, and I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna dump it right in, and then I'll take Mod Podge and we'll blend it in. That brush is from Dollar Tree too. I usually buy a package of them when I see them because they're really good for a lot of different things, pouncing, things like that, and they wash up very well. And if you ruin them, you don't feel so bad because you get 2 in a package. But mine last so long, and I just take good care of them. And I decided I would just dump that Mod Podge right in here. I would get a lot better of a mixture. But it's kind of like making pudding, I guess. And we're just gonna stir it around. And you don't have to worry about it going over the edges because it's all going to be sandy and gritty. Now this, since I didn't put paint in it, is going to dry that darker color. So there's going to be a little bit of a difference, and it'll just look like it's the dirt around the gravestones. And that's all set there. And what I'll do now is I'll give that some time to dry and finish this up, and little by little it will dry and we'll be all set. Very therapeutic, very relaxing to do. And they, miniatures are so much fun to do, and I just love the tiny little things. And here is our graveyard. Now what I did was, as it started to dry, I pressed those in there and I made them crooked, and I just pushed them into the soil, and this is what they look like. And you can see too the little writing on them now, and I'm just turning that around so that you can see. And I do have it upside down, so I'm sorry about that. And then as far as the cauldron, that's just some of that white clay, and I painted it with a lime green. And that little fire pit that I have, I already made for another craft. So we're going to use that, and it lights up with fire in it. It has like a little Dollar Tree tea light, and that lights up very nicely. And I'll show more of that later. Right now what I'm doing is I'm making this little tripod that's going to hold the cauldron, and I want the cauldron to be chained over the fireplace. And I'm putting a lot of glue on here. Those 2 extra sticks, I really like them, but later on I'm going to cut them off because they really started to get in the way. I just really didn't need them. But I got these sticks from outside, and I usually hold on to everything like that if there's a big windstorm, or, you know, I'm in Florida, so if it gets rainy, I just grab sticks from outside. And I've got some chains from my jewelry and a little jump ring here. And this ring is one of those rings that you have to open it up, and it's got I'm not quite sure how to describe it, but it's not your typical jump ring. I have this tool here that I open. It's almost like a mini key ring. I was having trouble when I was making my jewelry, and I got those instead because they don't open as much. And this is just some chain that I'm going to put around the cauldron. This was a lot of experimentation because I've never done it before. So I 3D printed that cauldron, and I used the white clay. And here I'm just trying to find the best way. I probably wasted a lot of chain, but I only needed it to be about the size that I'm cutting it to now. I thought I needed it much longer, but it only needed to be about that long. It's a couple inches. And then what I'm going to do is on this side, I'm taking my tool again, and I'm opening up this key ring, jump ring type thing. And then I've got 4 pieces of the chain. So I've attached that on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach all those other pieces to the ring. All right. So I have this sort of harness type thing. And next time, to be totally honest, if I do this ever again, I am going to hot glue the pieces onto the bottom of whatever I'm dangling, because I didn't need to go through all this. And I'm using that tape from Temu, nano tape, because I'm not quite sure how it's going to fare here. So I don't know, but as I said, I wouldn't even go through this. And the other advice is to put whatever you're going to put into the clay before you do all this. I think the clay was not totally dry, and I was just trying to get going here and get this video out, because it's getting very close to when everybody starts their crafting and they start putting their crafts out. So I do eventually get this in to the little tripod here, and I did end up hot gluing that ring, and I just hot glued to the top. So that part is all set. And then I'm taking my Mod Podge, and I made these little eyeballs out of Temu has these little spheres. They're kind of like no-hole beads, and I took the white ones and I painted eyeballs. And I do have that in another video, but basically what I did was I just put blue paint, a little bit of tiny blue paint, then I went in, let it dry, and I did a little bit of the pupil, and then I did a little bit of a highlight. So I'm using my tweezers here, and I put some Mod Podge in the little holes that I previously made. And I find that it's better just to do it with your fingers, and then maybe take the tweezers and just push them in a little bit more. And flood that pretty much with Mod Podge, because it'll hold. These are little seed beads that I had, and they're green glass. And I'm just putting those in. And same thing with these, I was able to get them in with the tweezer, but they're big enough where you could really just put them in. And then with the tweezers, I'm just pressing them, putting a little bit of pressure on them so that they stay in. And what I'll do is I'll put those around, and I have like previous little holes that I made in that clay to get everything in there. I took a seed bead and I just went around and made holes in the air dry clay before it dried. And then the eyeballs, I did the same thing. And here I have some pearls, and those were just laying around for my scrapbooking days, really. And I'm gonna finish up putting some of the glass beads in, but then I also went in the little spots and I put the pearls in, and you can see there how cool the little eyeballs are. And I just wanted them to look spooky, and then with the green seed beads, I wanted them to just stand out. And now for my board, I have this board from Dollar Tree, and I got some cilantro leaves. I'm going to use my Mod Podge, and I have some sand, and I think this may be from Michael's. I actually found it finally, and it was in my craft stash, but it's from Ashland. And I put Mod Podge on, and then I put the cilantro. I let it dry a little bit, and then I went back in with my Mod Podge again, and then I put the sand in. And I did let that dry for a while, but that board is going to be the base of Spooky Town. And I just thought this year I would have something with a little bit more creepiness and, make it look old and dead. And then here, thank you to Thicket Works, and I'll put her link below. She made these beautiful fences and gates, and it very gothic looking, and it was an SVG file that I downloaded from her site for free, or from her channel for free. And then I went in and I made this board so that I could paint all of them. And I took that masking tape and I just double-sided it, looped it around. And then I wanted to spray paint these because there's a lot of them. And then I cut those pieces of wood out, but you can use popsicle sticks for the bottom. Those are going to be the base because I'm not going to attach them to the blackboard. I'm just going to put a base on them and let them stand up. And then that way I can put them away and store them. This is just a box, an Amazon box that I opened up and put them on. And then I used just regular black spray paint that I had laying around. It's probably from Walmart. And I spray painted everything on the board. And just over here is going to be some of the little pieces. And I just randomly put everything out so I had plenty of room, so I didn't get pooling up of the paint. And then here you have it. Now, one of the pieces I pressed a little bit too hard over there on the right of the screen. I pressed a little hard, but I thought, well, who cares? It will just look broken, and fence is old and it breaks and everything. And here, just taking my glue gun, and I would have probably used the other glue, the regular super glue, but I wanted to get these together a little bit faster and not have to wait for them to dry. So right here, I'm putting that broken piece together and just lining it up and just taking a look. But the laser cutter also, it was very close to the edge of the wood that I was cutting. And this is made out of the basswood also, and I got that from Amazon. But it just was a little bit close, and I think it messed up a little bit and it was weak. So I thought, well, I'll just take advantage of the brokenness of it and I'll use it. And it doesn't look too bad. So we'll use that. And then here's the gates that she made. And hers were made to cut out on the Cricut or a cutter out of chipboard, which is certainly what you can do. But because I have the laser cutter, I do like to make things out of wood if I can. And sometimes I will use my Cricut. But for the gates, you just have to put a little bit of glue on. I put a little bit too much there. And then just the one side you can glue. And I'm just using my glue gun there, the Surebonder. And I just made them open a little bit. I'm going to have 3 gates, so I'm going to space them out. And where the glue spots are, I'm taking my Dollar Tree moss here, And I find it all the time, you know, and when I do, I don't find it all the time, I should say, but when I do see it, I grab a bag because I use it so much, and I just store it up and hold on to it in my craft stash. And then here I'm just breaking everything up, and then I have some of the old stuff. You can find that there too, that old creepy moss. And then I'm taking that and just putting it into everything. And you can use this for so many different things. So I always have a big bag of this on hand. And then sometimes what I'll do is I'll take it out of my craft, because I had it on the blackboard last year. And so I took a lot of it and picked it up and just put it back in the bag. And then I've got my Mod Podge here, and I'm going to take my fan brush again, which I love so much. And I'm going to take my Mod Podge, and we'll just dab some Mod Podge. I'm going to use the cap here, put some in the cap. And then I'm going to take the Mod Podge and just put it in the little spots where there's a blob of glue, just so it doesn't look like blobs of glue everywhere. And this camouflages everything, and it does give it a little bit of a look too. It gives it a nice texture, and it brings some green in, some coloring, and then it also brings a little bit of like that dead grass creepiness type of look. And then you just take your time with this and press it down, and the Mod Podge will hold it. You just have to give it a good press. It feels like you do have to be careful, but if I want to add something in, I will, and then I'll add it in the back, and then I'm pushing some of it through so that some of it will show on the other side, but you do have to be gentle. And then that's the way that looks. I love that. And then I've got the glue on the back too, and I'll fill that in. And here you have it. It just looks amazing. I'm so excited about how it came out. And there's our cauldron. And that fire it's a black tea light from Dollar Tree. And then just some rocks that I had from Michael's. And here is our eyeballs and our cauldron with the chains. And then we'll pan over here. And this is in the daylight too that I'm filming this part. And then we've got our graveyard and our opening to our gate here, and our fencing. Their Gothic fencing is all around Spooky Town. And I put some different lighting in this year. That other lighting that's flashing, that's the same. And then I have my Dollar Tree creepy tree that I made with some ornaments. And just some other lighting. I'm going to have tea lights in the Haunted Mansion that made with the doll houses. And we'll just pan around here a little bit, and you can see how I just put those fences, put the little pieces of the fence up and just place them, and I didn't connect them or anything, and I didn't connect them all the way to the back, because this way I can get in the back there and turn off my lights. And I did see on Amazon that they have the lights like that's in the middle house there. They do have the lights that will be on a timer. And I do have tea lights in the other Haunted Mansion on the left there, the miniature doll houses. And I redid Spooky Town sign because it was so small. So I redid it, and here it is at night. And you can see I'm short one tea light in the Haunted Mansion, but there's a tea light underneath. And then I took saran wrap for the fire underneath the cauldron, red saran wrap. And I Mod Podged that and put some sticks on it. And here is the creepy cemetery, or creepy graveyard. And I just love the way it turned out. And what you're seeing here too is the purple lights in the tree. And I had some Dollar Tree purple lights from last year, so I took those, I put them in the tree, and that really lights everything up, and it gets this creepy fence or creepy lighting, and it looks like, the gates open and then you're going into the cemetery. Very, very spooky this year. And I really do love these purple lights and hope to get some more too, but they usually do have them, and I do need some more, maybe for around the edges. But I know you probably can't see this, but I have this red vines. They're red glitter vines, and I got those from Dollar Tree last year too, and they just add this extra little creepiness to everything. And then on the left I have a little trick or treat sign there, but the cauldron just looks so creepy, and that red glittery outside the fence looks really awesome. And then I love the way too those lights are flickering, and it's just so I'm just absolutely love the way that it turned out this year, and I just did some extra touches to it. And there you have it. That is our Creepy Spooky Town Part 3, 3rd edition. If you make a spooky town, tag us on Instagram at Tranquil Mentor. And don't forget to visit Thicket Works for the inspiration and the free fence SVGs. She is awesome, and you definitely have to check her out. And if you're already one of our subscribers, welcome back, and thanks for watching our video today. And if you're not a subscriber, welcome. And if you would be so kind to subscribe and like our video, it helps YouTube notice us a little bit more, and it supports our channel and helps us grow. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.